Wow, look at all these beautiful historic airplanes.
You know what they all have in common, John?
Yeah, they're all just beautiful.
Well, that's definitely true, but it's not what I had in mind. They're all taildraggers.
Well, Martha, why don't you tell us about taildraggers? Well, I go fly a few of them.
Sounds like fun. The thing about taildraggers is the main wheels are in front and the tail's on the ground. In the early days of aviation, almost all airplanes were configured this way, with either a skid or a steerable tail wheel in back. They can be called tailwheel airplanes or conventional gear airplanes, but I like to call them taildraggers. The important thing to know about taildraggers is that although they handle just the same as other airplanes in the air, they do handle differently as soon as you touch the ground. And this means they require a different set of skills. The reason they handle differently on the ground is that the main wheels are so far forward. This means that if a pilot touches down a little hard with extra speed, the airplane tends to pitch back up in the air again. Also, directional control on the ground is more difficult. When the airplane is turning while taxiing, it pivots around the main wheels. And since most of the weight is behind the main wheels, the tail can really get to swinging. Pilots have to work hard to keep the airplane taxiing in a straight line. Okay, let's check in with John now while he shows what it's like to taxi a taildragger in Flight Simulator.
Well, first of all, it's hard to see over the nose in a taildragger, but there are two things we can do. We can press Shift-Enter to raise the seat up as high as we can, and we can always return the seat to its original position by pressing spacebar. Or we can use W to cycle through windshield views with less and less of the panel. Also, we can use our rudder pedals to S-turn from side to side so we can see ahead of the airplane. Now, you can operate the rudder pedals by twisting the joystick or by using key commands. The key command for left rudder is 0 on the number pad, and for right rudder, it's Enter on the number pad. Now, sometimes when you're taxiing slowly, it helps to use differential brakes to start a turn. So use F11 for left brake and F12 for right brake. Also, if you're taxiing in a crosswind, you'll have to work those rudders and brakes a lot to keep the airplane going straight.
Now let's talk about your takeoff. Of course, you'll start your takeoff run in a nose-high three-point attitude. As your speed increases, you'll raise the tail to streamline the aircraft into the wind. Then when you have flying speed, you lower the tail to put the airplane in a climb attitude, and it will fly off the runway on its own. Now let's take a look at it from the cockpit view.
Okay, let's give it a try. As we pick up speed, we'll push forward slightly on the stick to raise the tail. And as we raise the tail, we might need to add a little right rudder to help counteract the airplane's natural left turning tendency. We have flying speed, so we'll pull back on the stick slightly to climb attitude, and we are airborne.
That was a nice takeoff, John. But now let's talk about the part that worries everybody, landing the airplane. There are two basic pitch attitudes you can use for landing, nose high or level. The nose-high attitude is used most commonly on smaller taildraggers, and it has you land at the slowest possible speed. This is called a three-point landing because usually all three wheels will touch the ground at the same time. It's a beautiful feeling when you do it right. Let's have John show us.
All right, we do this by flying level just above the ground. Then we slowly keep bringing the stick back and hold the airplane off the ground. Hold it off, and just as the stick reaches the back limit of travel, the airplane touches down to a nice soft landing. Now, as we slow down, the controls become less and less effective, so it will take bigger and bigger control movements to keep the airplane going straight. It's a lot of fun.
On the other hand, it's not uncommon to land bigger taildraggers with what's known as a wheel landing. In a wheel landing, you touch down at a higher speed, in a level attitude, and on the mains only. Just as you touch, you add a little bit of forward stick to keep the airplane from pitching back up into the air.
Okay, let's give it a try. Well, we're getting close to the ground now, so we'll level off just above the ground. And this time, instead of adding back pressure, we'll just fly level and let the mains touch the ground. Okay, we touched, and I added a little forward stick, and we just made a nice, smooth wheel landing. Now, as the airplane slows down, we'll gently lower the tail wheel to the ground. You know what? I just can't decide whether I like wheel landings or three-point landings the best.
Well, John, now that these people know how to handle a Taildragger in Flight Simulator, don't you think it's time for them to try it on their own?
You're right, Martha. In fact, I'd like to practice some more myself. Besides, I still have to decide what kind of landing I like best. Let's all go flying.